Welcome to Urban Living with Swarna. This is your cozy corner in the chaos of city life, where we tune in for soulful chats on travel, nutrition, mental clarity, and simple habits to help you breathe easier, live better, and glow from the inside out. Welcome back to Urban Living with Swarna. Today's episode is going to be a little more personal. This one is about the lessons I wish I had learned sooner. The ones I had to figure out on my own. The ones that saved me. Last year, I lost my grandpa, my dada, and I felt completely shattered. The only reason I didn't give up was the faith my dada had in me, and I clung to that like a lifeline. Growing up, I didn't have the kind of parents who were emotionally present. And I say that not to assign blame, but to tell the truth. They weren't there, not in the way I needed them to be. Not when it came to love that felt safe, or listening that felt soft, or guidance that felt steady. So I raised myself, quietly, invisibly. I learned to keep my needs small, to swallow my hurt, to be strong, always strong. But here's the thing, when no one teaches you how to feel your feelings, you start to fear them. When no one shows you your worth, you start to question if you have any. When no one models love with boundaries, you end up accepting pain as part of connection. Those gaps follow you into adulthood. And in my teens and my 20s, I really started to feel the weight of it. All the things I didn't learn, all the love I didn't receive, all the inner chaos I had no words for. Then last year, I lost the only person who ever made me feel truly seen, my dada. He was my lighthouse, my safe harbor, the only adult in my life who looked at me like I mattered. His presence was quiet but strong, and his faith in me, it was unshakable. When he passed away, something inside me broke. Suddenly, I felt numb, like I had no ground beneath my feet. And for a while, I didn't want to be here anymore. There were days when it was hard to breathe, let alone hope. Nights where the pain felt so big, I didn't think I could carry it. And it's real. And I know I'm not the only one who has felt that way. So if you're listening, and if you've been there too, please note this. You might be feeling weak. You might be broken. But note this. You are not alone. The only reason I didn't give up was him. The only reason I didn't give up was the faith my dada had in me. When everything else crumbled, I held on to his belief in me. It reminded me that there was someone in this world who thought I was worth something. Someone who trusted I would make it through, even when I didn't believe in myself. And sometimes that's enough, not forever, but just long enough to get you to the next breath, the next step, the next page. That's what brought me back into therapy. And one day, I showed up there, holding a journal. In it, I had written something that felt both like a confession and a declaration. I called it Essential Lessons Without Parents. And that's what I want to share with you next. It was my way of saying, these are the life skills I should have learned, but I'm teaching them to myself now, one by one. Writing this list wasn't just an exercise in reflection. It was a kind of quiet rebellion, a way of reclaiming all the love, guidance, and structure I didn't receive. It was also a promise to myself that even if no one taught me how to live, I could still learn how to thrive. Over time, I created a list of things that helped me heal, grow, and feel grounded, even when I had no one to fall back on. And today, I want to share that list with you. The first lesson I had to teach myself might actually surprise you. It wasn't about healing or emotions. It was about something much more basic: money. I remember after my grandpa passed away, I struggled a lot. I was stuck between quitting my job and paying rent. I remember sitting there thinking, what if I actually end up without a roof over my head? No family support, no backup plan, just fear. And I thought to myself, this might be it. I might not have a place to crash. I might not survive. It was in that moment I suddenly realized there's no one left who's going to sit me down and tell me how to manage money. No gentle advice, no warnings about overspending, no secret tricks about savings. It hit me. Financial literacy is one of those lessons you often learn too late, especially if you have grown up with instability or with parents who were absent, or worse, they were controlling in a way that never really taught you independence. Money is tied to safety, and when you've been through grief or grown up around toxic people, safety is that one thing you crave most. So the truth is, it's not about becoming rich. It's about creating stability so you don't have to depend on people who manipulate you. Here's what has helped me. Start small. Track every expense for a month. Trust me, it will surprise you where your money actually goes. Save something. Even 5% every time you earn, it should go into your bank account and no one else's. It's not the amount, it's the habit that matters. Learn basic investing. I don't care if it's index funds, SIPs, because leaving money idle doesn't protect you from inflation. Trust me. One of the books that really helped me when I was getting into this habit of saving money was Psychology of Money, but that book deserves an episode of its own. So, you need to ask yourself, what's one money mistake I made because no one taught me better? And how can I make sure I don't repeat it? Second lesson, self-care. After loss, it feels almost selfish to think of yourself. I remember days when I didn't feel like eating or sleeping properly. But here's the truth. If you don't take care of yourself, grief and toxic environments will swallow you whole. Toxic people thrive on being drained, and grief thrives on you being empty. Self-care is how you can resist both. Self-care isn't a luxury, it's survival. It's saying my life still matters, even when I feel broken. When I talk about self-care, I am saying stick to the basics. Hydrate, eat one good meal, get sleep. Even if you plan on ordering at least twice a day, make sure there's one meal in your daily routine that's healthy. Don't aim for that perfect wellness. Just aim for enough. Second, move your body. Gently. I'm talking stretching, walking, even dancing alone in your room. Movement shifts grief and energy, and it's really important, especially in these days, that you move your body. Third, protect your energy. If you're drained, don't force yourself into social circles that don't feel safe. And ask yourself, what is one small kind thing I can do for myself today, even if it feels silly? Third lesson, navigating emotions. Growing up without healthy emotional guidance means you don't know what to do with the big feelings. Anger, shame, jealousy, hurt, guilt. And when I didn't have my grandpa anymore, I wasn't just sad. I was angry. I was angry at life. I was angry at people who didn't understand. I was angry at how fragile just everything felt. So when you have also dealt with narcissistic environments, you learn to suppress emotions or explode, but rarely to express. Emotions aren't the enemy. They're messengers. Even anger says something. Something feels unfair. Hurt says, I cared. So instead of pushing them away or letting them destroy us, we can learn to sit with them. So try and name it. Instead of saying I'm mad, say I feel angry because I wanted more support and didn't get it. The second way to go about it is channeling. Write, paint, scream into a pillow, walk it out, exercise, anything that helps. Give emotions an outlet. Third, pause before reacting. I personally practice the 90 seconds of breathing rule. It says 90 seconds of breathing can save 9 days of regret. So next time you feel overwhelmed, try it and see if it helps. And ask yourself, what emotion do I find hardest to admit out loud? And what is it trying to tell me right now? Fourth lesson, setting boundaries. One thing I've learned dealing with grief and toxic people is that if you don't set boundaries, people will take more than you can give. After my grandpa passed, I realized how many people wanted things from me. Attention, help, even emotional labor, when I had nothing to give. Boundaries aren't about pushing people away. They're about protecting your peace so you can show up authentically. If you grew up in environments where love was conditional, saying no almost feels wrong. But actually, it's the most loving thing you can do for yourself. This is what I like to do. Use simple scripts. I can't commit right now. If that doesn't work for me, would suffice. Remember, a healthy person will respect your no. A narcissist won't. And that's how you know. And you need to start small. Just practice setting tiny boundaries and work your way up. And ask yourself, where in my life am I overgiving? What's one gentle boundary I can set for this week? Fifth lesson, establishing routines. Grief makes every day feel blurry. With narcissistic parents or partners, your life is unpredictable. You never know what mood you'll face. That chaos becomes normal. For me, routines became little lifelines. So for instance, routines aren't about rigidity. They're about creating tiny pockets of safety when everything else feels unstable. So this is what really helped me. A morning ritual. For instance, every morning I would drink 1 glass of water. And that was my morning ritual. Maybe that was the best I could do. You can set up any ritual you want. Maybe you have hydrating, stretching on your list. Maybe you could set just one gentle reminder or an intention and start from there. Similarly, build a night ritual. Unplug, journal, create a calm down practice, whatever works for you. But keep it flexible. Don't push yourself if you skip anything. Just return gently and ask yourself, what's one daily ritual that makes me feel safe and grounded? Sixth lesson, building self-worth. When you grow up with criticism or neglect, you start to believe your own worth is tied to achievements or how useful you are to others. That's not true. After my dada passed away, I noticed how quickly I tied my value to how strong I could be for others. Instead of asking, what am I worth to myself? Self-worth means knowing you are enough, even when you're not performing, even when you're grieving, even when you're not okay. This is what has really helped me. Write 5 qualities you love about yourself that aren't achievement-based. And affirm daily, I am enough, even in rest. Surround yourself with people who see your value, not just your utility. And ask yourself, when was the last time I felt proud of myself simply for being me? Seventh lesson, finding role models. With parents absent or emotionally unavailable, you often look elsewhere for guidance. And that's what happened to me. After losing the most important person in my life, I realized he was one of the few role models I had, and suddenly I had to search for new sources of wisdom. And while I'll always carry the lessons he taught me, sometimes when you're on your own, life becomes heavy and you start to feel alone. That's where role models come in. Role models don't have to be perfect. They just need to show you what's possible. Sometimes they're in books, sometimes in mentors, sometimes even in strangers. So, here are my tips for you. List 3 people you admire and the qualities they model. Borrow their lessons, but filter them through your own values. Don't just blindly believe what you see. Remember, inspiration doesn't mean imitation. And ask yourself, who inspires me and what lessons can I borrow from their life right now? 8th lesson, understanding healthy relationships. If you've dealt with toxic people, love can feel like walking on eggshells. So when you find a healthy relationship, it almost feels suspicious. I used to think conflict meant passion or silence meant safety. But grief taught me how fragile time is and how important it is to build safe relationships. Healthy love feels calm. It feels like exhaling, not like performing. So, look out for green flags: communication, respect, listening, accountability. Similarly, watch out for red flags: any manipulation, silent treatment, guilt tripping. That's my parents in a nutshell. Pay attention to how your body feels around someone. Are you tense or are you at ease? And ask yourself, which relationship in my life feels safest and easiest, and what makes it that way? Ninth lesson: decision-making skills. Grief makes decisions harder. Your brain is foggy. At least that's how it was for me. And narcissistic families often make you doubt your judgment. So even small choices can feel paralyzing. I've been there, second-guessing everything from career moves to friendships. Decision-making isn't about being perfect. It's about practicing trust in yourself. So the things that have really worked out for me is the 5-year rule. Will this matter in 5 years? If not, don't spend your 5 minutes thinking about it. Flip a coin, not to decide, but to notice your gut reaction to the result. Similarly, you can make a list, pros and cons, and then circle what aligns with your values. And ask yourself, what decision am I avoiding right now? And what fear is holding me back? 10th lesson: emotional regulation. And I'm talking about outbursts. I used to think emotional regulation meant suppressing my feelings. Especially around toxic people, you learn quickly showing emotion can be punished. But even after my grandpa's passing, I realized unprocessed grief would leak out anyway, in anger, in silence, in exhaustion. Regulation doesn't mean shutting down emotions. It means creating space between feeling and reacting. Here's what has helped me: seeking therapy. With continuous panic attacks and anxiety attacks, it was no-brainer that I had to seek therapy. So here's what I learned in therapy: 4-7-8 breathing method. It's stupidly simple but really powerful. Inhale through your nose for 4 seconds and then hold it for 7 seconds. Exhale slowly through your mouth for 8 seconds. Do it 3 or 4 times and you will see that your heartbeat has slowed down. Your brain would stop spiraling and your emotions wouldn't feel so overwhelming. If you're surrounded by people who are testing your patience, take a cool-off walk before responding. This is something that has really helped me when I'm surrounded by people who just constantly try to get on my nerves. Third, journal instead of texting in the heat of the moment. Don't react, but rather act. And ask yourself, what's my default reaction when I'm upset? And how could I choose differently? 11th lesson: asking for help. With the biggest loss, I felt this heavy pressure to carry everything on my own. I didn't want to burden people, especially people I loved. When I was suffering, I had people who would constantly text me, tell me they're there, tell me they'd want to be there for me. And I loved them. I loved them with all my heart. But at the same time, I feel that I grew up around toxic people. At least at that point, I was surrounded by people who weren't very kind. They also taught me indirectly that asking for help could be thrown back in my face. So I built this false strength. But the truth is, we're not meant to do life alone. And people who love us will be there for us. And sometimes we should let them. Asking for help isn't weakness. It's a sign you trust someone completely, enough to let them in. Start small. Ask for a feedback, a listening ear, or a small favor. And notice who responds with kindness. That's your safe circle. Once you've figured that out, reframe. You're giving others a gift by letting them support you. Perhaps if you think like this, you'd be more likely to let people in. And ask yourself, who in my life feels safe to ask for help? And can I reach them out this week? 12th lesson, self-discipline. Discipline is a tricky one for me. Especially with hurt, some days you don't want to get out of bed. At least I didn't. And with toxic people, discipline is something that is enforced as control, not as freedom. So I had to relearn discipline altogether as something I give myself, not something that's forced upon me. Self-discipline isn't a punishment. It's self-respect. It's a bridge between where you are and where you want to be. Something that has helped me is the 5-minute rule. If it takes less than 5 minutes, do it now. Try and anchor habits to existing ones. For instance, drink water after brushing my teeth. Since I always forget to drink water, so I've made it a rule. Once I've brushed my teeth, I'll finish a glass of water. Or it could be as simple as stretching before bed. Focus on consistency, not perfection. And ask yourself, where in my life could a little discipline actually give me more freedom? 13. Advocating for yourself. In families with narcissistic dynamics, you learn quickly your voice doesn't matter. I often silence myself to avoid conflict. But with some people, you just can't help it. I realized no one else is going to fight for me. And now that my dada isn't here, I don't expect anyone to either. If I don't speak up for myself, I'll always feel small. Advocating for yourself doesn't make you difficult. It makes you visible. You need to tell yourself your needs are valid. Here's what has helped me. Using I statements. I need more time. I feel overlooked. This is something that made me put myself out there. I realized that when I talk to people who look down upon me, it actually helps. It helps me prepare before tough conversations. So what I do is I write down what I want to say so as to avoid conflict. Start with low-stakes situations and build confidence from there. You don't have to get into fights or heavy conversations right away. And ask yourself, where have I stayed silent when I should have spoken up? And how can I reclaim that space? 14th, practicing forgiveness for self and others. After my dada's passing, I had regrets, things I didn't say, things I could have done for us, for him, and I didn't. Also, I couldn't. Moments I wished I cherished more. That regret turned inwards. And I also carried anger at people who didn't show up at the funeral, showed up later. Forgiveness felt impossible. But then I realized forgiveness isn't about excusing. It's about releasing myself from carrying poison. Forgiveness isn't about the other person. It's about giving yourself peace. At the end of the day, it's self-care. Here's what has helped. Writing an unsent letter to the person or yourself. I often wrote quite a number of letters, and trust me, it does help. Also realizing that forgiveness is in layers. You don't have to do it all at once. Take your own sweet time and separate forgiving from forgetting. You can release while keeping boundaries. And ask yourself, who or what am I still holding on to? What would forgiveness give me in return? 15. Balancing vulnerability with strength. After my loss, I had people saying, be strong. And others were saying, it's okay to cry. Honestly, I felt torn between the two. Vulnerability felt like a weakness, but pretending to be strong also felt fake. Especially when you have lived with toxic people, vulnerability can feel unsafe. But the truth is, they aren't the opposites. Real strength includes vulnerability. Being open doesn't make you weak. It makes you whole. Share your feelings with safe people, your safe space, not everyone. And try and journal when it feels unsafe to share out loud.
There could be moments that you don't want to share with anyone, not even your loved ones. That's where journaling comes into place. And remind yourself, tears and courage can coexist. And ask yourself, when was the last time being vulnerable actually made me stronger? 16. Developing core values. Without parents guiding me, I had to ask myself, what values matter to me? Growing up around toxic people, values often get twisted. You're told loyalty means silence, or love means sacrifice. But finding your own core values is like finding your compass. As a child, I always knew what I didn't want to become, and that was my father. The very thought revolted me. That's where it's so important to have your own core values. Your values are your anchor. They guide you when grief fogs your mind and when people try to pull you off course. So this is what has really helped me. Write down your top 3 values. For me, it's kindness, integrity, resilience. And use them as a filter for decisions. Check in monthly. Am I living by these values or drifting away? And ask yourself, what values matter most to me? How do I show them in my daily choices? 17th, trusting your intuition. This is a really big one. As a child, now that I look back, I realized how often I second-guessed myself. Growing up in environments where toxic people gaslit you, your own gut feels unreliable. But intuition isn't broken, trust me, it's just buried under doubt. Your intuition is your inner compass. It gets clearer the more you practice listening to it. Here are my tips. Start with small choices. Notice your first instinct before overthinking. The second thing that really helps is keeping a gut journal to track moments where intuition was right. Third, learn to distinguish fear. For instance, if you feel fear or a bit weird around someone, notice that you would feel a bit tight, or you'll get this anxious feeling, or you would simply start feeling nauseous from their presence. Fear is very different from intuition. When you feel good about someone, you would have this calm, steady energy. Listen to it and ask yourself, when was the last time I trusted my gut? And what happened? Also, what happened when I didn't trust my gut? 18th, creating stability. Especially stability that was missing as a child. Stability was something I craved as a child but didn't have. In grief, instability feels even sharper. You feel like the ground is gone. So I've had to learn to build stability for myself. Stability doesn't always come from family, and this one is so important to learn. It can be created through routines, safe spaces, people, and boundaries. Here's something that has really helped me, creating rituals. Your morning tea, evening walk, it could be anything to ground yourself. Whatever helps you. Second, build financial and emotional and physical safety nets, step by step. You don't have to get into all 3 right away. Start small. Third, surround yourself with people who feel safe and not chaotic. And ask yourself, what daily habit or ritual makes me feel safe and rooted? 19. Self-compassion. In grief, I often judged myself. Why am I not healing faster? Why do I still cry? But compassion for yourself, it's vital. Growing up without parents, unconditional love makes it even harder, but not impossible. Self-compassion is like treating yourself like you treat a hurting friend, with patience, with kindness, and lots of care. Try and replace self-criticism with self-talk. I'm doing the best I can, instead of saying I'm good for nothing. Second, this is something that has really helped me, which is writing a letter to yourself as if you were comforting a child, or writing a letter to your younger self. In my worst moments, this practice has really helped me. Third, give yourself permission to rest without guilt. It's okay to take a break every now and then and ask yourself, how can I show myself kindness today? And do just that. 20th, empathy for others. Losing someone reminds you that everyone is fighting unseen battles. But if you grew up with toxic people, empathy can get warped. You either give too much or none at all. Relearning empathy has been healing for me. Empathy connects us. It allows us to see others without losing ourselves. Here's what has really helped. Listen without planning your reply. Just listen. Let the other person talk. You're not there to offer your opinions right away. You're just there to listen. And try and practice empathy with boundaries. You can still care about the person without overgiving. And remember, empathy is a strength, not a weakness. And ask yourself, how can I be present for others without abandoning myself? Lesson 21. Releasing the past. My grandpa's passing reminded me how much I was carrying. Grief, old wounds, memories of neglect. Honestly hurt, I still have nightmares. But holding on to the past keeps you stuck. And letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It means making space for what's to come next. Release the weight of the past so you can step into the future where support and love are possible. Trust me, try these rituals of release, journaling, writing letters you don't send, meditation. Learn to acknowledge pain, but don't let it define you. Don't build your life around the hurt you witnessed. And try and seek out a safe place where you can really learn to be yourself. And ask yourself, what part of my past am I ready to let go of? And who can I lean on as I do this? Lesson 22. Building a support system. I used to think support systems was something people were born into. You either had a family that showed up for you, or you were just unlucky. But I learned that support isn't something you have. It's something you build. And no, I am not talking about suddenly making 10 friends or trauma bonding with strangers on Reddit. I'm talking about building your network in layers. Maybe you can have one friend for emotional grounding, someone you can vent out to without being judged. Maybe you can have another friend who's more solution-oriented, someone who helps you think logically when you spiral. Another person who shares your ambition or growth mindset to keep you moving forward. Maybe a few acquaintances at your gym, at a new hobby that you recently started, a neighbor, a barista that you get your coffee from regularly. People who make you feel seen without needing depth. Support doesn't always come in one person, and it's very important to learn. Sometimes it's a team of people who fill different roles in your life. And if you don't have anyone yet, start with being your own support until others arrive. Because when you show up for yourself with consistency, trust me, the right people will naturally align. I want to end this episode by dedicating today's episode to my dada, my anchor, my father, my safe space. Even though he's not here with me anymore, everything I do carries a part of him. And if you're someone listening who's stuck in a toxic relationship with your parents, or if you have felt orphaned in any way, please believe me when I say this. It does get better. I'm proud of you for holding on, for showing up, and for making it through another day. If you feel like reaching out, you can always reach out to me at suwarnajoshi1515@gmail.com. I would love to hear from you. And if this episode has helped you in some way, please share it with someone who might need to hear it too. And if you're feeling overwhelmed, struggling with your mental health, or having thoughts of harming yourself, please know you're not alone. Reach out and talk to someone. If you're listening in India, you can dial 112 or connect with 24/7 helplines like Telemanas 144161800 8914416. If you're listening from USA, you can dial 911 for emergencies or reach out to 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline available round the clock. And remember, seeking therapy and sharing how you feel and asking for help are signs of strength, not weakness. Take care of yourself. You matter. Thank you for being here with me, sending you lots of love. Bye for now.